The difference between a troublemaker and a change maker is a change maker will say, this is wrong and here's how we fix it.
Every golfer knows the reset that happens between a bad shot and the next tee. Lisa Cornwell built a career calling other people's swings. This episode is about the one she called on herself.
Welcome to the Speaking of Phenomenal podcast, Lisa. I'm so glad you're here. I would love it if you could introduce the phenomenal you to our audience.
Hi, I'm Lisa Cornwell. I am an author. I'm a broadcaster and I am a speaker, but most importantly, I think I'm someone who is on a journey of self-awareness, and it has been, I don't know, maybe the best journey of my life, and I'm excited to share it with you all. Oh boy, the phenomenal me. Thank you, first of all, for that adjective. The phenomenal me is this discovery that I've been on as of late. These last few years it's been a season of reflection and growth. And I believe that the two biggest goals in my life and really the purpose that we're all here is connection and growth. This version of me that is growing, that is learning, that is trying to become better every day is phenomenal. I'll brag on that. It's kind of hard to say good things about yourself at times, but I'm really proud of the work that I've done, the self-awareness that I have sought and created in my own life, and the growth that it's given me. For the first time in my life, maybe I'm really happy for myself, having gone through it willingly and purposefully.
If you could take us to a specific moment as a child, maybe a competition, a win or a loss, when you felt drive for yourself for the first time.
My childhood was fully encapsulated with drive. As a young person who spent so much time playing competitive sports, that's what I lived for. That's what it was all about. I mean, I could give you 1 million stories about that, but if I had to pinpoint one, I will never forget as a kid. I was probably 10, if I had to guess. My background, I was an all-state basketball player. I was an all-American golfer. I played college golf. Golf was really my standout sport. And I remember being 10 and driving home from a town, I'm from Arkansas, a town called Russellville, and I had captured the 8-hole division, and I was 3 years younger than all the other girls. It was something kind of incredible. They didn't even think that I should be playing. And my parents were with me in the back seat of this 4-door Lincoln car that we had with blue felt interior. I was obviously a product of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and holding this trophy. And I remember driving in like I had just won this 8-hole division for the entire city of Fayetteville, Arkansas, where I'm from. And I really felt that way. Now, I don't know where that came from, but there was just this immense pride, I think, because I had accomplished something that other people hadn't done and didn't think that I could do. And I think from that point on, it led me to want to chase that competitive high. And I will never forget that.
How would that translate then into high school and college?
Well, that was the beginning of what I felt from competition and the success. My success was about winning or losing, and that was it. There was no second place. And that's what drove me as a young person. And everything was about winning, and everything was about being successful in sports, education, schoolwork, all that was secondary. Who I was as a kid, my friends, that was all in the background. It was all about winning. When I looked through my young life and I looked through my teenage years, and when I got to college, when I really started struggling with some of life's challenges, I was successful, winning. So I felt great. And then all of a sudden, when that started slipping away, everything changed for me. And I had a very difficult time defining not only who I was, but seeing myself as now a failure and a loser. Finally, I became more comfortable in my own skin, and those nerves and anxiety settled down, but it took me a long time because everything that I had defined in my life was all about winning or losing. It wasn't Oh, you're getting better. Oh, there's growth. Oh, look at you today versus where you were 1 month ago. It was ingrained in me to keep my head down. And when I felt like I was the best, then I would have succeeded.
That competitive drive built a career, but it also built a version of Lisa who didn't yet know the difference between winning and being right.
Troublemaker, I wrote it for a few reasons. It is a total reflection of my life. And I go through my childhood. I go through a lot of great things that I've experienced. I also go through hardships. I talk about the eating disorder that I battled when I was in college, my revelation that I was attracted to women, not men, and the total chaos created in my life as somebody who grew up in a Southern Baptist church. But the purpose for Troublemaker is to tell my story and my experience at Golf Channel and the sexism and the retaliation that I faced, and I deserved to tell my story with what I've been through and after being pushed out at work. The other reason I wrote it is because how many other women have felt this exact same thing?
One of the pivotal events that makes all this come to light is the dinner in Eugene in 2016. Could you paint a picture of what that is so that people understand what this was, the straw that broke the camel's back?
You always have your bad eggs. I was shocked that it happened at this level and at a company like Golf Channel owned by NBC Sports. We're at the NCAA College Championships, maybe 20 of us in this private dining area. And my direct boss, he's there, a good friend of mine. He was very new. And he had a moment that happens to a lot of us on air. Look, I've had it, moments of anxiety that you literally have to stop down. So he stopped the interview and, they went away. And my boss stood up and was making fun of him for it. I stood up and I just shut him down. I said, I don't know what we're doing here, but we don't take somebody's weak moment and start making fun of him. What are we doing? We don't do this. And my relationship with him was different from that point on. Now, maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I didn't have to stand up and embarrass him. In those moments, I probably don't operate the way that, you say that you should. Like I reacted and I was angered. And I think at that point, my eyes were wide open now because I saw what kind of person he was. And I questioned the culture from that point on. And I don't think I ever saw it the same, to be honest.
She filed an EEOC complaint. Her contract wasn't renewed. What came next is what turned one voice into 18. That moment cracked something open. Lisa questioned a culture she stopped noticing. Being right had cost her plenty. What she didn't know yet was what it would take to be believed.
It validated what I was saying, because it's very easy for people to question if I'm the only person saying this is what's happening at Golf Channel. But to have those women say, yes, this has happened to us and something needs to be done. Nobody at that point could come in and say, oh, Lisa's making this up.
What was it like to have former First Lady Hillary Clinton write the foreword to your book?
It's an honor. She really hit the nail in the head in the foreword. And I never thought about this before, that and this is very true with me. It's so easy for us to defend other people, but it's a lot more difficult to fight for yourself. And she put that in there in the foreword. And I thought, that's so perfectly said.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey there, Phenomenal listeners. It's Amy Boyle. If you're loving the stories and insights on the Speaking of Phenomenal podcast, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Good Pods. Your 5-star reviews help us reach even more people and keep bringing you great content. Thank you so much for your support and being a part of our phenomenal community. Now back to the show. She spent years learning to fight for other people. The next swing she had to work on was harder, learning how to hear herself.
After the book and starting to think about the competitive spirit and other things where you said your words stop matching your heart. When did that feeling first start to happen? Was there a specific moment that you could take us to?
One day I was on Instagram, but I was in that sort of doom scrolling moment, and there was this reel that was in front of me, and for some reason I clicked it. I never have the volume up when I'm on those sorts of things. But for some reason, this guy was talking, and I was like, oh, he seems really genuine. So I turned the volume up. His name's Jefferson Fisher. He's a trial lawyer, and he teaches people how to communicate. I listened to that one reel. I went to his page, and I started listening to video after video. And on there was a quote: the fastest way to lose your peace of mind is to give someone else a piece of yours. I think it hit me in that moment that I was very good at giving people a piece of my mind. I had become a fighter, and this critical voice in my head had completely taken over my life. It put me on a new path where I thought, okay, even though what I am arguing for matters and it needs attention, the way that I'm doing it has gotten out of control. And it has robbed me of this peace in my life. So I stopped going in these podcasts where I was complaining about things all the time. I stopped going on Twitter and making these negative tweets. I thought, I need to change what I'm doing. I said, you cannot call yourself a kind person if you don't use kind words. So who do your words say you are? And in that very moment when he asked that question, and I thought, who do my words say that I am? And I did not like the answer to that question. And so completely changed who I am as a person. And I've had to self-reflect a lot. It's alleviated insecurity in my life. It's alleviated conflict in my life. I mean, I lived, Amy, for winning arguments, and I was really good at it. But like Jefferson Fisher says in his book, winning arguments is a losing game because you don't get anything out of it. What do you get out of winning an argument? I don't try to be right anymore. And my life is a heck of a lot better than it used to be. It wasn't anything that I wanted to do as a kid. And I had a lot of insecurity in that. I didn't feel like my performance was worthy of the gold medal. And so I think that for me, that created insecurity for a long time.
So in that same vein, you had written that being right and being effective are not the same thing. Where were you when you understood that?
I think that's really my motto now in life, that being right and being effective, they are not the same thing. I think before I read Jefferson Fisher's book, it was all about being right. Even the book that I wrote, Troublemaker, it was all about proving that I was right and they were wrong. Now, I'm still glad that I did it because of the exposure. But in order to be effective, the book, as it's called, Troublemaker, I think in my life, I would rather be known as a change maker. So I was going around as the troublemaker saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I was right on that. But, the difference between a troublemaker and a change maker is a change maker will say, this is wrong and here's how we fix it. So they offer growth and they offer aspects of the problem to work through and to make it better. And if you go back to my childhood, it was all about winning. So I was just an older version of that little kid wanting to win trophies, only now my trophies have become winning arguments and pointing out flaws and doing all these things. There's some reservation and some hesitation, but I have to put my feet in the water, which I sort of dip my toes in with that carousel. Now I've got to take a bigger step to the 3-foot zone and then tread water in the deep end.
The reckoning wasn't a single moment. It was a daily choice. And what that choice looks like in practice is where Lisa takes us next.
The world doesn't judge us by our intentions. So instead of living this intention-based life, I try to go with the understanding that the only way that you know me is by what I say and how I say it. I have to do my best job every single day to make sure that my words and my actions reflect my heart. And it's gotten easier, but I'm not perfect. I'll say something to someone I'm close to, and I realize on the back end, I can't tell you how many times I've had to call my sister back and say, Tracy, you know what? I hung up and it didn't sit right with me. Even though I meant it this way, my tone, my words were out of bounds. I think throughout the stages of my life, I have defined being enough differently. I don't think that I fully understood it until recently. I thought that I was enough. I thought that what I was doing was enough. I thought that the pursuit of accomplishments was enough. And the reason that I know that it wasn't is because the enough that I was always chasing as a young person and as a broadcaster was all for me. It was all about my own personal success, my own validation, getting those pats on the back, like good job, good performance, great work. But it's not enough because it's not fulfilling. It doesn't last. So somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, great show. You were amazing. You know, teleprompter went down and you handled it like such a pro. I mean, what does that matter in life? But if somebody comes up to me now and says, you know, I watched how you were with that person and you really listened and you could have taken this a different way, but you were in there, and because of the way that you listened and because of the questions that you asked, it made me think differently about that. Those are the kind of moments that stay with you. So I think for most of my life, as hard as it is to admit, I think that it was a very ego-based and individualistic, self-fulfilled way to live. And it's not fulfilling long term. This is fulfilling because it's not about me winning. It's not about me being right. It's not about me proving points. It's about me growing as a human being, me being a better podcast guest for you, me being a better friend or a better sister, or whatever it is, me being better for other people, not better for myself. And I've lived most of my life being better for myself, doing the things that made me feel successful. And my definition of success now is much different than it was for all of those years of my life. I mean, I'm 51 now. And for 49 years of my life, maybe 48, I don't know, but success was very different for me. And maybe it's part of getting older, but I don't think so. I think that it's the combination of getting older, but also finally understanding sort of what life's all about. And the growth that was lacking in my life personally has now been this gift that's been given to me in my midlife. And I said it earlier, and I don't think that I can say it enough. I think it's the greatest gift that I've ever been given. And in that moment when I have to compliment myself, I really gave it to myself. I'm the only person who could do that for me. And thank God it happened.
We'll wrap with, if the version of you who exists right now could say one thing to the version of yourself who stood up at that dinner in Eugene in 2016, what would you say to her?
That's a great question. If the version of me now could talk to the version of me who stood up in Eugene at that dinner or stood up for anybody, I would say, you have great intentions. You're brave, you're strong, and you're doing this for very good reasons. But make sure when you do it that nobody ever questions who you are as a human being. Make sure that your heart is always reflected in how you react, because your reactions are just as important as their actions. I think that's what I would say. And I think that I probably still say that to myself today as a reminder when those moments happen. and I'm tested. Make sure that people know from your words that you care, that you're passionate, that you're a defender of people, but you're also kind, because that matters to me.
Lisa, thank you for trusting me with your story today. The way you move through the world with such intention, you are without a doubt phenomenal. And I'm so glad you were here.
I don't try to be right anymore. And my life is a heck of a lot better than it used to be.
If this episode has meant something to you, please share it. And if you haven't already, a like, a follow, or a 5-star review helps more people find this community, and it genuinely means the world to me. And something we're doing differently this season, there's a voicemail link at the top of the show notes. I listen to every single one. Until next time, I'm Amy Boyle, and this is the Speaking of Phenomenal podcast.